the metaphoric value of a workout. Specifically, the idea of doing something hard simply because you chose to do it. And letting that become a metaphor emotionally for your spirit to attach challenges to something that you're physically doing. Something that you're committed to do, not because you have to, or because you were told to, or because that's just what everybody's supposed to do or what everybody does. Instead, it's a choice. You've chosen something that's difficult. If you're working out and it's not difficult, you might consider upping your game to reach the zone of development, the zone of growth that is a challenge, where the emotion says, oh, but it's not fun, it's not like what we feel like doing. It's a challenge. And from that place, approaching the workout with the energy of, I'm here for a purpose, and the discomfort, whatever the emotion is that you're feeling that's in the way, moving through that and doing it anyway. Doing what you say you will do in spite of the obstacles that the emotional process throws up. Now, the little sidebar is, if the discomfort is your body telling you physically you shouldn't do that because of previous injuries, because of something going on, because of the physicality, if the body's sending you the pain signal of that's causing harm, that's different than the emotional resistance that one faces as they're resting between sets and they just really can barely get themselves up and they're kind of like, do I really want to do this? The emotional resistance, the emotional obstacle can be metaphorical. It can be a representation of the things that hold you back in your being as a human, being your best self. If we only do the things that are short-term, immediate gratification, oh, I feel like doing it, yay, let's do what we feel like. If you only do what you feel like, life will be hard. If you only focus on the short-term, immediate gratification, oh, yay, this tastes good, I'm going to eat it. And it turns out that you're just eating sugar all day. You will not have the long-term results as if you are doing the difficult things that are building your future. Doing things by choice, where the desired outcome guides your choice. If you do the things that are difficult, the simple things that you've committed to that'll give you the long-term result, if you do those things consistently, one could say, wow, that's really difficult. And it is. And building the muscle of dedicated, consistent effort on the simple things and the repetition, that process can be facilitated as you go to the gym and as you face the emotional resistance to completing a well-planned workout that is reasonable for you to do. Then you get to face the emotional resistance. Then you get to work through the things that become your obstacle in having an easy life, built off of doing the repetitions of the consistent activities that build a better future, rather than focusing on the short term. Because if the focus is on what feels good right now, life will be hard. if you focus on doing the things that bring you the results long term, life will be easy. If you do the hard things, life will be easy. If you do the easy things, life will be hard. And along with building that emotional strength to do the reps, to follow your plan, to do what you know will give you a better life, rather than doing the things that feel good right now, the short-term instant gratification. Along with that, the next step is to aim at something. And there is a process of any kind of a sport or activity. One could say that a kid with a BB gun, it's like, oh, let me see if I can aim at that thing, and tries to shoot a rock or a can or whatever it might be. Incredibly enough, there is a development that comes along with the process of being able to look at something, choose it as a target, aim at it, and successfully fire the BB gun and to be able to hit the target. Now, for a kid, when that happens once, the first time, it's like, wow, yay, I got it. I solved it. Now I can shoot. And takes aim and fires again. And the consistency may not be there yet, because it is a skill. There's a repetition involved in taking aim, aligning the sights, pulling the trigger. The consistency requires practice. And with that, it becomes an exercise that can create the link to being willing to put the reps in to emotional success. If one wants to have a happy life, if one wants to be able to persist through challenges, if one wants to be able to take on something that's not easy, they have to be willing to have the emotional structure to learn. That's growth. You grow, you learn, you're growing. And to learn to take aim and hit your target is something that has more metaphorical value for the emotional processes, as well as for the physical eye-hand coordination. So, if one were to say, BB gun sounds like a great idea. I'll go get a little target, set it up in the backyard, make sure that safety is addressed, and start shooting BBs at the target, and start from maybe a comfortable, easy distance, whatever that might be for you. And you're like, oh yeah, look at that. I can group them within the circle that a dime would cover from whatever distance that is, and then increase the distance. Provide challenge for yourself. Challenge yourself with a farther distance, and all of a sudden you're not grouping them in a dime, you're grouping them like in a quarter, or maybe it's like silver dollar, and you're like, okay, now I'm challenged. You've created a challenge for yourself, which challenges are going to come in life. You're going to be challenged. Our brains are like, have antennas for challenges. We find challenges. One of the recipes for being miserable in life is to try to make everything so easy and so comfortable that you don't have any challenges. And we see when parents provide that situation for their children, no challenges for him, just participation trophy, and make his life easy, And don't say anything that makes you uncomfortable. That is a person who will find challenges in things that seem trivial. Not to judge or say those people are wrong, but to say that the nature of being human appears to have a problem-solving element. Problems are part of life. And if one can accept that problems are part of life, and the avoidance of problems creates new problems, the brain will say, well, what about this? And it will come up with a problem. Now, if we can agree that our brains are seeking out problems to solve and figuring out ways to grow and improve, imagine picking something that could be a metaphorical problem. Aiming a BB gun at a target and reducing your grouping from a $50 size group to a dime size group. Take 10 shots, see how big of a circle they spread out to, and work to reduce that. And now your brain has an actual challenge. Whoa, do we need to work on eye-hand coordination? Do we need to work on like breathing? Do we need to pay attention to, are we pulling the trigger and moving the gun? Like the awareness of many factors that go into how to properly shoot a BB gun to hit the target. All those factors set up almost like a game for the brain. It's like, oh, okay, let's learn how to focus on our breathing at the same time that we're paying attention to how we're squeezing the trigger or are we pulling the trigger. Now you have an experience for your brain to be engaged in solving a problem, a real one. It's real. You shoot in a certain group and you want to change that. You want to create a change and you want a different outcome. And the super awesome part is that you can't just tell a different story to say somehow that you're happy with the group being a big circle, like, oh, it's okay, just the way it is. It's perfect the way it is. No, you actually want progress. You want to make that group smaller. You want a $50 size circle to go down to a dime size circle. You want a goal. You've picked one. You got a target. You took some shots and you've decided on improvement. And now your brain has something to challenge. It might feel uncomfortable. It might be like, man, isn't there a way that we can just say that, it's good enough? Well, you could say that. But then your brain is going to find something somewhere in your existence to work on. And I would offer, you might consider picking something yourself. If you pick taking a group of BB gun shots on a target and trying to make a smaller grouping of shots, it's going to take practice, repetition. You get out there every day. You make 20 or 30 shots with your little BB gun from the distance that you're wanting to improve. And each time you practice, you get real feedback. You get the feedback of what is actually happening. And if from one day to the next it gets worse or it gets better, you have feedback. You know something's shifting, something's changing. To take it to the metaphorical level, if you choose to pay attention as you're doing your target practicing and as you're disciplining your mind to focus on a problem to solve, and as you're focusing on, am I squeezing or pulling on the trigger? if you notice that you can't keep your attention on that and your attention goes to something else, and you're like, man, I'm worrying about this, or I can't focus on the shooting practice because something's on my mind. Grab a hold of that thought of something is distracting me and wrestle with it through the practice. And you may consider saying to yourself, I have 10 more shots to make. Each of these 10 shots, I'm going to sift through ideas, and I'm going to let that idea confront the emotional challenge, the obstacle, and I'm going to test it out. I'm going to process through what I'm feeling in the very practice of trying to improve. And it may be just metaphorical, and if that's all it is, that's some work. It is some work being done. And as you continue with the physical act of practicing your aim, improving your aim, and the repetition of paying attention to, am I squeezing or am I pulling on the trigger? Paying attention to breathing, paying attention to any jerking or moving, eventually paying attention to your own heartbeat and squeezing the trigger in between the beats, and learning, gaining information from others who have mastered the art, and getting insights into, oh, wow, with this new information, that leveled me up. And results are showing that that new information was useful. The metaphor in that would be, there may be other areas of your life where perhaps gaining new information is a vital step, and for some reason, because of the nature of the challenge, you're dismissing the new information. Perhaps that would be something. The other is the simple metaphor of, with repetition and practice, things to improve. And to experience the progress, to experience the growth in improving your aim. When you experience it physically and you see the results on a piece of paper, on the little target card, when you see the results and you can say within yourself, wow, this consistent effort, this practice, the repetition pays off. As an individual experiences that in something simple like target practice, one will then transfer that earned value of, wow, that the repetition and the practice pays off, will transfer that to other challenges, and will say, well, gosh, if I just put in the reps and practice whatever skill or attribute or emotional state would support your growth and progress, that creates a real, like, it makes it real, it makes it tangible, it makes it something that is a transferable learning, where, okay, I've experienced it in this realm and it worked. Now I have a willingness to see that same pattern of learning applied to another area of life. Now, to hear it as a story, I imagine there may be some excitement. There may be some feeling of, oh, wow, gosh, now that I see it, now that I see the concept through the story, man, I want to be part of that. And yeah, and rightly so. The challenge is that the story that I'm sharing is a big picture story. It spans more time than what your attention for your attention right now, it spans more time than your attention's really conceiving of. I say that because if your attention was capable of seeing that big picture solidly, you would be doing it right now. You would know that practice, persistence, and continued effort changes your outcome, and you would aim at what you wanted in life, and you would have it. And because we're having this conversation right now, it's apparent that there is room for growth, and for everyone there is. And the metaphor of picking a target, taking aim, and improving your aim, that's powerful and relates directly to that big picture that I was describing about being able to say, oh, I see how I started working out and I was putting in all this effort and I wasn't seeing the results, and it felt like, what am I really doing this for? And yet the belief and the vision of this is going to have a good end result carries through the challenge and strengthens the emotional structure, strengthens the emotional power behind your decision. And when that happens and you move through the challenging time, when it's uncomfortable, then results can change. And oddly, our emotional set points are kind of what keep us right where we are, because our emotional set points are to keep us safe, and familiarity is safety, and the comfort of doing what's easiest right now is going to be an obstacle to growth. And as one musters up the energy to take on a challenge, to overcome an obstacle that feels like, gosh, that's not going to be easy, that's not going to be comfortable, but I believe I can make it, and it's going to provide the experience of rising to the top, above the distractions, above the challenges, above the things that would hold us down. And the experience of rising above all of that gives one a different perspective, and the ability to appreciate that different perspectives give room for growth. A new perspective, almost an opportunity of becoming a new you. Not that there was anything wrong with the old you, but the example that's so often given of, oh, you're perfect just the way you are. Okay, perfect for what? And according to who? And do you want to grow? Do you want the potential opportunity of saying, man, maybe I'm great the way I am, not doing it because there's something wrong with me, but wow, what would it be like to experience growing as a person, as a human, growing in a way that I could say, I did this, and the old me would have given up or wouldn't have followed through, or the old me wouldn't have accomplished this like I did just now. And to be able to experience that level of growth is a new perspective. I was looking at the landscape from a vista, or the top of a ridge, compared to looking at the landscape through standing in the bottom of a wash. It's a different feel, it's a different experience. And as much as people want to be supportive of everybody and say you're all good enough just the way you are, and yeah, good enough for who and for what? You know, those are kind of questions that nobody really wants to talk about, because the focus is on, we just want you to feel good. So feel good no matter where you're at. But they're denying the reality that an individual will feel differently as the journey of their life gives them a different perspective. And that is achieved by hiking the mountain, by overcoming the obstacles, by being willing to do the repetitions, develop the strength. Maybe it means going hiking more often. And then when the hike can be a comfortable hike, and when one overcomes the challenges, learns the skills of being able to have good footing, being able to pick a good route, being able to avoid obstacles, being able to overcome. And then when one reaches the crest of the hill, and when one has a new perspective, they can look at the path that took them to get there and have the feeling of, yeah, I did that. And that is something that money cannot buy. You can only earn that feeling and that experience